This is ACOFAE. Laura Marie and Jessica Marie proudly present A Court of Fandoms and Exploration, a podcast. Fair warning, everything the hosts say is explicit, full of spoilers and adult content and shall not be used against them. They have opinions. Let's try not to drag anyone for expressing themselves and just have fun for an hour. We all deserve it.
This episode contains spoilers from the world Sarah J. Maas has created, along with brief mentions from the Black Witch Chronicles, From Blood and Ash, Serpent Dove, and the Grishaverse. There are also discussions surrounding grief and violence.
Hi, everybody, and welcome to A Court of Fandoms and Exploration, your weekly deep dive into the YA literature and fandoms that we love. I'm Laura Marie.
And I'm Jessica Marie.
And today we are discussing, this is Crescent City 2, House of Sky and Breath. Is it Crescent City 2, or is it just Crescent City House of Sky and Breath?
It's just Crescent City House of Sky and Breath. I think we, as the fandom, have been referring to it as Crescent City for so long that now we've been trying to actually actively have to differentiate. So...
Yeah, this is CC2, Sky and Breath. We have so much to say about this. Absolutely so much. Probably not what you're thinking. Maybe probably kind of what you are thinking. I want to get this out of the way just for me personally. I will not apologize for not liking Hunt very much. I acknowledge that based on what we're reading, that they are mates. I understand this. This is not a problem. I have a fantastic talent of tolerating the mediocre men in my friends' lives. So this is not like a problem for me. I will excel at this. So
she has done a wonderful job. You know, she loves me through and through, and she's let me learn my own lessons. She's the best. And she's happily allowed me onto her team. I told her, I think we talked about this too, in previous episodes. Like, I'll be the first to admit when I'm wrong. I'll take ownership of my actions. Hunt wasn't for me. That doesn't mean, this is that person when your friend is in a relationship, you just, okay, she's happy. Let's be happy for her. But also, let's normalize that you can be wrong and people don't have to be toxic about it.
Which is the thing. It is so important that you can, look, they are mates. Clearly. It is not for me. Jess, I don't think it's really for you. It is what it is. We will tolerate it. We're not going to, shit on it. It is what it is. What the author has put down is what it is. What I can tell you is that Rune is my shit.
Oh, I love Rune. Rune is, yes. And I love that I liked him in I loved him in Earth and Blood. Love him in Sky and Breath.
Yeah, no, he's really fantastic. And the way that we're introduced to him in his chapter is just fantastic. He's high as fuck, face full of wonderful, wonderful, voluptuous woman. And he's loving life, right?
He's Rune was certain of 3 things in his life. He was high as hell. He couldn't feel his face. And it's a damn shame because he's going down on this girl. And what did you say? What did you say where you were I like to think of Dorian doing
Yeah, no, it's just Dorian had these same thoughts, I feel like. Good on him. Yeah, Rune is really fantastic. Circling to the end of the fucking book, having Rune be related to Reese and having that confirmed by Bryce just kind of cements that, yeah, of course I really like Rune, especially in this book. Fond of Rune in CC1, that's on record. Love Rune in CC2.
And from the beginning, I was texting you all the little things that he was saying when he was mind talking to Bryce, and he was talking when they were talking about the Star Sword specifically. And he's I'm not the type of male whose sense of pride is so is so little that I need to cling to a shiny weapon. And I was like, I sent you the TikTok sound. I go, oh, his dick is big. I know his dick is big. And it reminds me the complete opposite of Reed in Serpent and Dove, where he needs his little like stabby dagger. Oh, but it's not my stabby dagger. I'm like, whatever. Give me Root all day.
Jess, we have new characters in this book. We have new characters. We have new plot lines. We have a new, just a new vibe, kind of in general. Tell me who these new characters are.
Yeah. So, we have a lot of, a lot of our favorites are returning. We have, Bryce, Juniper, Fury, Danica in some sort of sense, which she still plays an integral role, which is what we were talking about in our part 2 recap episode of Earth and Blood. We have Hunt, Therian, Rune. Ethan Holstrom has a big, he plays a prominent role in this one too. We love Ethan. Hypaxia, Tristan, Declan, Baxian is back. Viper Queen, Autumn King, which we learn his name is Aenir, I can't remember. Jessica, the Hind, Pollux. We get the names of the Asteri are back in a way. You have Hesperus, Polaris, Espheros, Octardus, Ostrus, Sirius, who is the Asteri that the Prince of the Pit ate, who's also known as Star Eater, and then Rigelus, the Bright Hand. And then we have some new characters too. Pippa, who leads Lightfall, and we'll talk more about that. Sophie Renast, Cormac, Mordock, River Queen and her daughter, Commander Sandez, Apollyon, who we know is the Prince of the Pit, Ariadne, Celestina, and Emil. Did I get it all? Maybe not all of them, but they'll float in and out.
Okay. Talk me through the Thunderbird plot, because I swear to fucking God, it has to go somewhere. And here's the thing. I really don't want to speculate about the ACOTAR, where it could go. Do you know what I mean?
No, I feel like we got a bunch of info dumping on the Thunderbird just to set up for something future in the future. Nothing really related to now, because right now I feel like the only setup was finding out that the Thunderbird and Emil is related to a Thunderbird, all for Emil not to just to be human.
Right.
That's one plot. And then Emil goes off with her parents and is her brother, her legal brother or something. And then we never hear from them. So they do that, tie that plot up in a bow for now, for this book. And then we continue with the rest of it.
And what did we learn about the Thunderbirds? They're supposedly killed out, killed off.
Yeah.
They can harm the Asteri. They're
the only things as of right now that we know that can decimate an Asteri.
But what is it? It's like electricity. It's like electricity, right?
I wish. Oh, I know Sam is going to yell at me. It reminds me of that one electric Pokemon from the original 51. It's yellow and red. Oh, he's going to fucking kill me.
Pikachu? Is it Pikachu?
No, not Pikachu. No? It's an actual bird. No. It sounds like that TikTok. Well, everybody knows Pikachu.
I have no idea. Pokemon was not my thing.
He'll be screaming when he's editing.
Sam will probably self-insert just to tell you what it is.
Oh, I hope so.
I hope so.
Zapdos.
So the whole Thunderbird thing is just very confusing, but it gives us Cormac, and it gives us the information that a human made the drop, because right. So, we have that information. Jess and I did the audio experience, and because we did the audio experience, we were able, and I feel other people, could pick this out if you did the audio. But Jess, what were you able to pick out right away?
Lizzie has a wonderful accent for Agent Silver, and it's, you hear it and you're like, cool, Agent Silver. And then Cormac enters the picture in, what is it, like chapter 2 or 3, and or maybe it's like 3, chapter 3, because they're at the frat house, and he comes, and here comes Cormac with the same accent, and we were like, oh, it's Agent Silver. But we're like, okay, we know as the reader, but if you're like as the audio reader, but if you're going through the book, you're not going to make that connection. So thanks, Lizzie.
Thank you, Lizzie. That was a really nice thing. Then I want to talk about the freezes in the ballet scene with Bryce and her mom. Her mom got on my fucking nerves.
I knew she would.
I hate that shit.
I knew she would.
Yeah, because I have had that fight, and I hate it so much. I had that fight a lot. But we get, knowing what we know about the end, like we get the Pegasus there, and if you know, but I don't want to spiral. I'm just putting that there to like timestamp, watermark, bam, bam, bam. Is that a Helion situation with the Pegasus and the freeze? Then we get a lot about Thur. Get a lot about Thur. The thunder god. Thor, the thunder, lightning, all that stuff. It's okay. We get a lot of that, and it's just really interesting because again, if you go back to our recap episode, I raised the point of like, where the fuck is this set? Right. I think it's kind of reinforced here that
Grease.
Yeah, it's a Grease situation.
Yeah.
Hardcore.
Well, I mean, then there was like probably like 65% of the way through, we had been speculating from our part 2 recap episode that it was Grease. And then when they start talking about all the olive trees, I was like, oh. They talk about olive groves and olive trees and the olives I was like, oh, okay, we're really driving this home now, aren't we?
Yeah, it's just like, whoa, okay, good to know. All right, so there's just so much going on in the plot that we're not going to be able to cover all of it. So we will obviously do like a recap like later, or like way later. So this is just like a main kind of like gloss over.
This is our initial. I just finished yesterday. Laura finished the day before, and we've needed this time to process amongst each other. Kind of like I was off. I don't know about you. I was off social media for a majority of those times. Like I would post something real quick, and then I would go back into my cave because. After the big spoil, you fucking asshole. I don't care if you're listening. Like, sorry. You put that out there. Like, that's a shitty thing to do.
Yeah.
It's a 14-book build. Like, what?
Ruined
it's great. Is it great? Absolutely. But you took that moment away from not, like, the fandom and the author. She has been working on that since she was 15, 16 years old.
Yeah.
She's 36.
That's a really shitty thing to do.
She's 20 years you took, like, I would be devastated. I mean, granted, she's not. She has a kid. Maybe that's her focus now. She's 2. But, like, how to take that away from somebody? You know what? If you listen, don't listen to us anymore. There you go.
Yeah.
Sorry.
No, we've never shied away from taking a stand. So if you did the spoilers, fuck off. Circling back to our plot, I texted you that Rune's blue eyes blazed violet with a glint of stars. And so I think it's important to say that we were spoiled. Like, I was spoiled. I was spoiled very, like, accidentally. I was aware of the spoilers. I did the things. It came across my Twitter feed in Spanish. And then I was like, no. And then when I was scrolling, the English translation was at the bottom and I was fucked. But then I texted you, Jess, and I was like, do you want to be spoiled?
Well, you said you were shaking.
I was. And my hands were shaking.
Yeah, you said you were shaking. And I was like, my anxiety cannot do this. And I had to know. And I did, because we just heard that there were spoilers going around. And we're like, okay, we'll just avoid the things.
We'll avoid them. It didn't work.
That's fine. And I couldn't not know.
Well, it's wild because I only got the the Reese Bryce.
You got the last line.
The last line. So
Right.
that was it. And eventually I got the rest of it. But I asked Jess and, she said yes.
Yeah.
And that is what I gave her. So we knew that was going to happen.
But we speculated it. We speculated a correlation there because we were talking about it in our part 2 recap where I go, Rune is related somehow. Either to Rhys because of the Damati powers or to Azrael because of the shadows. There's something there. There is something with the Night Court. There's something with Prithian. We don't know. But nobody knows. Nobody ever knows until it's right in front of you. So, is there I told you so. Oh, I guess this. Sure. But, nobody really knows till it's in front of us because that's what we're all doing up until this point.
Exactly. We were spoiled. So when Rune's eyes blazed with violet and stars, it was all right, here we go, full throttle, here we go. Another instance of that is Bryce. Her thoughts were swirling like darkness and stars, which I thought was very interesting. It was another one.
And then when Rune is using his Damati with Agent Daybright, it says Rune looking down in his mind when talking to Agent Daylight sees himself, quote, only in a form of nights and stars, galaxies and planets, as if his silhouette had been filled by them. Starry blanket of the sky covering his fingers had his mind instinctively shielded him. So his mind naturally shielded him in the stars and the night and everything that we know.
There are a few things that have stuck with me in this book. One of the things that have stuck with me in this book that I don't think has stuck with anybody else is the 3 different definitions of mates that we have in this book. And I just am so stuck on it. Why do we have this? Why is this here? You have the shifters, the fae, and the Malachim with the angels and what it means. And then you have the conversation with Bryce and Hunt, what do I call you? Boyfriend and girlfriend? Is it mate? They agree to call each other mates. And then it's this whole thing. I am stuck on these definitions. I don't know why they're here. I am not fighting that Bryce and Hunt are mates. I am just pointing out that these definitions exist and I am interested in them, especially knowing what we know about the Fae and the shifters being one.
Well, that's what I was going to say. You flash forward to the end of the book and they say shifters are Fae. Shifters are a breed of Fae. Shifters derived from Fae, I think is the right way to say it. So then if they derived from Fae, wouldn't the shifters and the Fae definition of mate essentially be the same?
This is what I'm thinking.
That's your question. Okay.
Yeah. This is what it's just Sarah leaves things in weird places. And I'm just this is a weird thing that I am catching on. There's a few other things that I have caught on that I will bring up as we go on.
It's when you're in Empire of Storms, and then if you don't read Assassin's Blade, why would you have Assassin's Blade when it came out, when it was published and released, if it wasn't going to pay off? Same thing with Laurie Forrest's Rebel Mages with Wand Fasted and Light Mage. We're not really going to go into it because we have that own episode, but that has a huge payoff in the Demon Tide.
I want to acknowledge and then set aside Therian's plotline because there's so much going on in this book. Let's acknowledge that Therian wants to be part of our world and that he is struggling with it, and that
Ariel,
our little redheaded male Ariel, he's doing his best, and he is now tied to the Viper Queen, and we have to assume under her thrall in some form and going to be addicted to her venom. This is what we assume, right?
Yeah, the dragon was even what the fuck did you just do? Even the dragon knew not to fuck with that.
Yeah. So, it's a blood oath situation. I am not going to speculate. I'm not going to speculate.
That's a whole different conversation.
It's a whole other thing. So Therian, we acknowledge you, we see you and your struggles with the River Queen and her daughter and wanting to fuck somebody so bad that you tie yourself to them without thinking. Dude, we get it.
I mean, rookie move.
Rookie move, but we all make mistakes. We all make mistakes, dude. Like, I get it. So Therian, we understand you, but we are going to set you aside for now. There's just too much else going on. Hypaxia, I really like this necromancy thing that she's got going on. I like that her tutors predate the Asteri. I like that her half-sister is the Hind. I like all of this. I like that Hypaxia is in a relationship with Celestina. Mm-hmm. Do I like that Celestina sold everybody out at the end? No, but I was waiting for a betrayal, so okay.
Oh, yeah, I was expecting a betrayal. Plus, like, even the littlest things, like when Bryce goes to her to ask for Hunt to come back, you know, from like after being, you know, in the comitium for 2 weeks or whatever, just go, I'm gonna go to my mom. Why would you lie to an archangel who you know can like cross-check you? It's like, get your lies straight. You know, if you were lying to your parents growing up and you crossed those T's, you dotted those I's, you made sure that you had all your bases covered. So I just don't know why she didn't think there. She's an archangel. Like, why would you lie to the archangel? Like, that again, rookie move. That just seems like a very rookie move.
You bring up a really, really good point. Bryce is a little different in this book. Do you agree with that? Yes or no?
Yeah. Yeah. What can I say? I was talking like for the last 48 hours to you about it.
Well, people are very much loving this book and loving the end of this book. We're not saying that we don't love this book. But Bryce is very different. She has very different dynamics. There's a very different vibe. There's a very different focus on this book. How do you feel about that?
It's no secret. I think we've talked about this before. How, you know, some people like will read a book and they'll be like, oh my gosh, I make that book my whole character. Like that becomes my whole character description. And this was in Crescent City was the first time I told you in chapter 1, the first time I read it back in 2020, it was the first time that I felt like I wasn't reading a character. I was reading myself. And so coming into the second book, sometimes I felt like I'm so disappointed in myself.
Disappointed. That's an interesting word choice. Do you want to?
I think she just felt so much more self-serving as opposed to self-sacrificing. In the first one, she was doing everything, you know, we said like she, you know, maybe we didn't like her throwing herself into slavery offer when Hunt was at the summit or at the comitium, but that's in character for her because she's done it before. She self-sacrificed herself, her soul to Danica to ensure that she had what we think at that time is a restful place in the afterlife. Like she's in the first book, she's human. She doesn't do the drop. She's going to Asphodel Meadow. She's helping everybody else, other children, other people. She's the only person running through like the quarter telling people to like go inside. Demons are coming. And then what? Then, you know, and then Ethan brings, you know, some of the pack. And then the Viper Queen has like her Blood Oath Fae following her, like helping her too. But it's all as a human and for the greater good. Bryce is like, I feel like Bryce is now like, oh, I'm a princess. Woe is me. And she even says, I feel like I have no idea who I am. I know that's a fucking cliche. I thought I knew who I was then. And now, like, I don't even know. Well, if you're probably feeling so shitty about yourself because you're not being this person that you were, who prioritized, who was just like, I don't want to say self-sacrificing, but it wasn't always about her. And right now it just feels like, oh, I'm a princess. Oh, I have to do this. Oh, I have to do that. Like it kind of seems like she might be whining about things and not looking at the bigger picture.
Which is really interesting too, because in the beginning of this book, you and I were both like, loving what Bryce was saying, right? She was like, you know, hun, I want to take this time with you. We don't know each other outside of like this world ending event. Like, let's just be and like chill with the sex stuff and just hang out. And you and I were both like, yes, this is great.
Yeah, and even like even though we like when we've said this, even though we like didn't love Hunt, we did appreciate there was communication there was the flirting, there was the band, like it was still fun. You know, you could still appreciate and like love like their dynamic. Like this book, I felt like, especially in the beginning when there was that dynamic, you felt the chemistry there. Like it was very like Poppy Cass.
Definitely. And I love the introduction of Ethan in there too, so they kind of like play off of him. They're like, can you have sex quieter?
Oh, he's like, I'm going to fuck you senseless. And you have
like,
Ethan
I
like,
don't think that's good. Don't do that.
That sounds like it could medically be like not a good thing.
It was like, I love that. I love that. I definitely, this is just like an aside. I definitely did yell that to my college roommate once. Absolutely. The exact quote was, can you please hook up quieter? Is what I yelled quite loudly. I do really like that. I agree with you here that Bryce did not feel to me like the same Bryce from CC1. So I'm going to move my head aside, and I have this beautiful art here that is Bryce and Danica, the beautiful spring break like fan art that's going around.
We'll put the artist in our show notes.
My question is, where is this? Yeah. Where is this female friendship? Where is this sisterhood? Where is this strength in female camaraderie? We don't have that here. In my opinion, and Jess, I think you share this opinion, what we have here is Bryce slowly isolating the people that know her best, slowly isolating herself until she has no one around her, no female influence around her at all.
One of our followers even said, she made the comment on our Instagram when we did the Q&A, like just hearing about like, oh, like what's your feedback? We weren't going to put the spoilers part. We were just censoring the spoilers too. And she goes, at one point there are 5, it's just Bryce and 5 females. And I understand that there are some girls who are just like, oh, I don't like female friendships. Like there's so much drama. Like there are people out there, but like you and I specifically, we've had this conversation. We love our female friendships. We thrive with them. You know, you have somebody for like every facet of your life, and it's just this wonderful thing that you could like grow and encourage and work with each other. And she's isolated herself from it, and not in the way that she did in CC1, where she was going through her depression, because that I totally relate to also.
It's different.
Yeah, it's so different. It's literally, she's isolated herself based on her actions, because especially when what happens with Juniper, Fury even says, look, I love Juniper. I'm your friend too. I'm staying out of it, but you fucked up. And I'm behind my girlfriend with this. And Hunt would have done the same thing. If it was the other way around, he would be like, look, I'm going to be behind my girlfriend for this. So she messed up. And so what does she do? Instead of apologize, she finds new female friendships. And it reminds me of your frustration with Nesta and her sisters, where instead of trying to improve that relationship, she went and found other female friendships too, which is fine. Like, I guess it works out in the end because everybody came and became, everybody started being friendly with each other. But in that moment, that she's not like being held accountable for her actions, or she is, and she's just pissed about it.
Yeah. Who are the 5? So Rune,
Ethan,
Tharian, Hunt.
Oh, Cormac.
And Cormac. Yeah, Cormac. And then it's just her. Like, what? Okay, so we had a listener who we love very dearly.
Oh, yeah.
Very dearly, very dearly. This is love. Ask us, like, you love Bryce, but you don't really criticize her. Like, she's doing kind of like these things that you just kind of like gloss over, right? Like, so here I got some fucking criticisms of Bryce, and I'm going to air them the fuck out. All right. So Bryce.
And the comment was specific to book one.
Yes, the comment was specific to book one. And I didn't really have any problems with the way that Bryce was acting in book one. I thought everything was very in character, and the way that she dealt with everything was very in character. I have problems with how she's dealing with things in book two. I have problems with how the female friendships in book two are totally and utterly shat on, and how Bryce specifically, treats Juniper like shit. She treats her like shit. Bryce is a dancer. Bryce knows dancing politics. Bryce speaks to the dancing teacher, and the dancing teacher says, like, we can't really do anything here. You know, if we do anything, it's gonna fuck her over. And then Juniper 3 says, don't do anything. I'm gonna stick this out.
Multiple times. It wasn't a one-time thing. She says it she says it after the show. She says it throughout. She's like, I'm still going to wait it out. There's a different conversation where they're talking about, like, you could be a principal anywhere else. Like, no. She's like, no. And even then, she still talks about it in the end, or, you know, at some point in the first book where they're like, you should be principal. And she's like, I'm going to wait. Like, I know. Because the first book, it was like more about her, like, quote unquote, like her race, her shifter race. It was more like, oh, there's never been a fawn, you know?
Yeah. So Bryce just doesn't fucking listen. She doesn't listen to her friend tell her over and over and over again, just like, don't let it be. Let it be. So she doesn't listen. And then Bryce pulls rank to do this. And when she pulls rank, she doesn't actually think about what that means, which is really annoying to me. Like,
the repercussions of her actions.
Oh, the consequences of my actions. Oh, look at these. Like, that is not the like forward thinking, like, you know, couple steps ahead Bryce that I am used to from CC1. Like, where is that? Like, fucking obviously. And then, I know I'm jumping around, but it just got me so very angry. The disrespect that Bryce showed to Lahaba in front of the fire sprites just like really fucking gutted me. And I did not understand that. When Bryce is like, yeah, and Jess, you said it too, like Lahaba like kind of always told me that she was like this person. And the sprites were like, we don't fucking lie about our lineage.
Yeah,
like,
she was really dismissive. And they were like, oh my gosh, she was a descendant of such and such, whatever the queen was, whoever Lahaba's queen was. And Bryce was like, well, that's what she said.
Yeah, and the sprites are like, you should go tell our queen. They would really love to like hear that. Like
you are an ally of the fire sprite, right?
And Bryce is just like, deuces, like, yeah, okay, I'm busy. It was just really annoying because...
But book one, Bryce wouldn't have done that.
No, book one, Bryce wouldn't have done that.
Because she bought Lahaba her freedom. So how do you go from buying somebody's freedom to be dismissing them?
And then here's the other thing. You brought up the replacement friendship, which is a thing with hypaxia, and you know, replacing, slowly isolating by replacing your friends with friends you know less well, and you know, getting farther and farther away from who you truly are. All of that stuff. My problem is that we still have Danica in this plot. She's still there. She's still revealing things from like beyond the grave and stuff. But instead of these reveals being like Aelin level, like celebratory, like, oh my gosh, yes, look at this, she's so clever reveals, what we're getting is Bryce being like, oh, she didn't tell me. Oh, she didn't trust me. Oh my goodness. Not like, oh my gosh, bigger picture. It's, I didn't know my friend, and my friend had this mate and she didn't tell me. I'm very sad about it. And it's just like, that's not what this is. It was very frustrating to me because book one was all about celebrating this wonderful friendship, and book two made every reveal with Danica a betrayal to Bryce, which is just kind of gross, which was also a nice word that they used a lot in this book, was gross.
You brought up a good point to me before we started recording, where it wasn't fair to Danica, and it's not fair to their friendship, because Danica's not here to defend herself and her actions the way Danica thought bigger picture. And they even quote, they go, you know, Danica's 10 steps, more like 10,000 steps ahead of everybody else. And that's very much like Aelin. Aelin's like ahead of her and everybody, and you know, and then you everybody sees these reveals and you're like, wow, I did not, holy shit, she is bigger picture. You have Danica here who is bigger picture, but she's not here to defend herself.
And it's really frustrating. She's not here to defend herself. She's not here to kind of to fight with everybody and to be like, yes, and to lead everybody on like Aelin would be. And it makes it so that it like, I don't want to say tarnishes, but it kind of does, because on top of this, you have Hunt using like light it up, like, you know, light it up or like light it up Hunt, which is just kind of another way of like stripping away this legacy that she had with Danica and like replacing it with something else. Which maybe I'm just reading too much into it, you know, whatever, or I'm sensitive to it, but it just felt icky.
I was talking to you about it before it even said, because I knew in my gut it was going to happen. So I knew I had to say it before I saw it. That Hunt saying light it up like a battle cry. Okay, fine. But it taking away from her and Danica's friendship is what, and again, maybe it's just because I've self-inserted so much with Bryce and us with like their friendship and our relationship, and it's so similar, with the benefit you still being alive. I think I try to explain it as if it were you and I, and we were saying light it up, and if I had passed, Sam, our editor, would be saying, you know what, Laura, light it up. You know that's what Jess would have wanted you to. It would have been like this uplifting thing and this beautiful, reminiscent thing of our friendship. I don't feel like he would never say it in a way that would take away from the truth of it and the depth of it. Because when they say that in book 1, it's very much like here's this reveal that nobody knew except, you know, Ember and Randall. So I'm just, I
know it's hard. It's hard. Okay.
I feel bad because like it sounds like we're shitting on the whole book, but there's like but that's not what this is.
No, that's not what this is. It's just really frustrating to see this character that you really, really like kind of act out of character for a dude, which is kind of what it is. All right, let's circle back. Let's circle back to a little fact that is just kind of thrown in here that I think is really funny. The Starborn Fae used to interbreed.
Well, I mean, that's like to me, I just like, I don't want to say dismiss it, but that's royal lines. Like that happens.
Absolutely. Okay, we were talking about the bust of Thur, but
I'm just gonna say Thor. When I think Thur, I think of Right Thur, like the Chingy song.
So Thur, he is a bust that Bryce has to look up in her job at the Fae Archives, and it is a 9,000-year-old Rhodesian bust of Thur, which I thought was just like a really interesting kind of thing. So that's like another instance of Thur.
Well, I thought it was really like in chapter 1, they're going through all of the sculptures at like the CCB or CBB, CCB, and they're all in the old Fae language, and she's walking around with all of them. And this is another foreshadowing of Ember and Randall. They were like, well, what does this one say? What does this one say? What is this? Because only Bryce could read it because she had some people minor in Latin. She minored in Fae. Like that's, so they were like, you really kept up with that? And she goes, it was really helpful when I worked with Jessica, which made sense. So you knew. And I mean, it's sprinkled through the whole thing too about the old Fae language. And it's even in the first book, it's brought up there too. So then when you flash forward to the last chapter and you're like, oh my God, like she just starts speaking like the old Fae language, and Amren is knocked on her ass. And that's when everybody was like, what the fuck?
I'll circle back to that because I have a point to make.
Yeah. Again, we're all over the place.
We're all over the place. Something that's really interesting to me that is also kind of all over the place is that Bryce's star like glows in Cormac's presence, and Cormac has like strange symbols on his left bicep. And he says like, the oracles of Avalon said that he and Bryce were predestined and they're destined to unite, a star, princess, heart, whatever. Together, they'll bring prosperity to their people. What is really interesting about this is later on, Aurigilus, when he's doing his villain monologue, is like,
These villains and their monologues. I'm like, same thing with the bone quarter. You're like, bro.
I know, it's just like shoot him in the head. Like, yeah. Okay, I digress. They have to tell us the plot, so they're they're monologuing. But I do believe at the end, it's in my notes, that I lost it. Oh, that Bryce's star glows between undiluted Fey lines, right. And that it will also. And she's like, well, it glowed in Hunt's presence too. And he's like, well, yeah, it will glow in your chosen knights as well. And I think that is where people are like, oh, maybe they're Karanom. But I don't really think that. But I thought that was really interesting. That little thing that Rigulus says there. So, and also that Bryce can actually take her star out. Like she's like took hers like physically out of her body.
Oh, I didn't realize that. I don't think I picked up on that.
In CC1, she like took it like physically like out of her body. Yeah. But here everybody is like, oh, the Asteri, like, where did they get their stars? Like, can they what blah, 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 about that? And I just think it is a fair point to say that like Bryce can physically take hers out, but the other Asteri, like we of course, we know that they are. No.
Say it.
No.
Say it!
The Asteri are. No, I'm just going to say.
Why don't you say the word that's used?
I'm going to say what's on page, but I'm going to say what's on page. The Asteri are, quote, intergalactic parasites, unquote. So that travel through space and time using wormholes.
So, like, if we're on planet Earth, how would, like, an intergalactic parasite, like, how would, like, talk to me as this is, like, Crescent City for dummies.
They're not
in
aliens.
Layman's terms.
They're not aliens. No. They're not aliens. It's just too funny. It's just too funny. It's just too funny. I'm not gonna get into it. Okay, so let's circle back to Danica. So one of the reveals that we get from Danica is that Danica, her email was like Banshee fan, like 66, which I thought was really funny. But Danica knew Sophie, and that Danica was the one that sent Sophie into the Asteri archives or whatever, right, to learn the truth that Danica was on, because Danica was like on it. She knew what was going on. She just needed probably like confirmation and to like find out what was in there, right?
Right.
Like, so Danica did that. And that whole plot is that Sophie and Danica and the rebel plot, we haven't talked about the rebels yet, and the rebels, all of that is mixed in with Emil, which is Sophie's brother, and trying to find him. And that's how all of that kind of is connected.
Quick question before it slips my mind. I'm sorry. So, when we find those papers in the coffee table that Ethan breaks, do we think that Danica hid those papers because she was scared? Because all of a sudden she dropped the research, like there was a threat? Or do we think she put them there thinking long term? Because Bryce said, she makes a comment of, oh, I didn't even know they were in there. Like, this whole thing was furnished before I got here. Like, do you think that Danica was, again, thinking 10,000 steps ahead, like hoping like this would dump?
Yes, because Danica didn't live in that apartment. Danica lived with Bryce in the other apartment. Okay. So yeah, I think she like stashed him there when she realized that things were like going to shit. Yeah. Right. Yeah. Okay. That is absolutely what I think. Hunt has an affinity for machines and electricity. That is like is a thing. That is a thing. Is it related to the Thunderbird thing? I think so. It's just like too on the nose for me with the Thur stuff too.
Oh yeah. I also think, and I don't know if, and we kind of touched on this, but I'm just like kind of putting it out there for whoever decides to listen. If he's also some sort of shifter, like a fae because we talk about the mates, we talk about the shifters, we talk about the definitions, but then Mordok in like the end of the book, they're talking about everybody, and Mordok says, and we're talking about the sense, and we know all the sense and the connections and everything, and he goes, yeah, but he says something about, yeah, he's an angel or something, but not like any other angel I've scented, and we know because of like he's a bloodhound, just like Danica in the Sire line. We know he can sniff it out. So he's sniffing something. He isn't sure what. So that's what makes me like, is he some sort of fae we can't go down that rabbit hole. Mm-hmm. I know we cannot go down that rabbit hole. That's a whole different conversation that Laura and we were like spiraling from earlier. Maybe at a later date, but there's that
Prithian connection.
Yeah.
Okay. I want to talk about very briefly the fact that there is a 15,000-year-old human civilization in the bottom of the ocean, and that we have a lot of mentions of the Ocean Queen and her kind of situation with the River Queens. The rivers are named, the rivers are given colors, and I do believe all of that is important for the next book.
Yeah, but why dive into it now?
Yeah, but it was like an info dumping for this book, but it's important to mention now.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah.
Yeah. We acknowledge it.
Yeah, we acknowledge and we move on. Okay. I have an issue with Tristan Flynn. He's mentioned a lot in this book. He has like a very kind of major, minor, if you know what I mean, plot line throughout this book.
His character specifically.
Yeah, his character specifically. He's interacting with everybody. He is, around for all of the big stuff. He's at the party. He's doing all the things. I got a sinister kind of weird vibe, and I don't know if I'm alone in that, but that is absolutely what I got from him.
Is it because of the book, or is it because of the extra chapter? Like Laura and I, we have all the chapter, like we have all the copies and everything. So we were able to see all these background things. So is it something one or the other, or is it like between both of them?
It's just everything. Like he was just so aware of everything, and I don't know. Maybe I am just being like really paranoid, but that is just something that I am interested in, because it is mentioned several times here when like Rune and like Declan and like Flynn and stuff are all talking about how like difficult it is for Fae to change, and how like immortality, is hard, all this stuff. Looking at my notes, and it's like the previous comment of Fae don't change. And also the comment that Flynn talks when he's drunk, and they go into like detail about that, about how like Flynn talks when he's drunk about stuff.
Oh, when they were like, we can't tell you or something, and they were like, you're loose-lipped.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So like all of this kind of put together, I was just like, I don't like where this is going. This whole weird thing. So, and then I'm looking at my notes again, and it says like coffee table papers. So those are like Danica's college papers about First Light, origins of worlds, and what the Asteri really are. If they are stars from heaven, if they are fallen stars, dusks, truth, all of that. I want to save the Asteri until the end. So let's talk about Daybreak.
Oh, I like that. Well, I can tell you, I did not think it was the Hind. I did not think it was the Hind. I had texted you. I was like, it's Hypaxia. Then I was like, it's Celestina. Then I had my crackhead theory of, oh my God, I know it's not possible, but how great would it be if it's Danica? Like, somehow her spirit is still, like, which I still think would have been, like, a fun, I don't know how it could have worked, but, like, we've talked about how marketing brainstorming sessions work. That would have been a fun, like, throw it out there, do something with it. Because I still really like that concept. Then when they're at the wedding, Celestina's wedding with Ephraim, and they're going to meet at midnight or whatever, and I don't see anybody. I go, like I have in my notes, I go, watch it be Sabine. I'm going to lose my shit if it's Sabine, because I was like, it can't be Amelie. But the reason I thought it was Sabine also was because whenever Daybright was getting pulled out of like her mind connection and like the person was being aggressive with her, I thought it was Murdoch because everybody like joked around like, who would fuck Sabine? Like, who's dealing with that? So, and like how aggressive he was, that's where I was like, that's where my mind went. I did not think it was the Hind/Lydia at all until once we realized Laura's like Sarah and her names, and Lydia, Dia in Spanish, is day. So it's like literally right there the whole time. And they made it a point. And they made it a point at the beginning of the book, say not just giving us the names, but telling us Queen Hecuba had 2 daughters, Hypaxia and Lydia. Like, it was all, you know, when you go back on, you know how it is with Sarah's work. You go back on it and you're like, oh.
I have here dim light of Bryce's star when she blows Hunt. I didn't need the, like, detail of her blowing Hunt. But, you know, the spice level was nice
you
here.
didn't like having her drip anything down her mouth and play with it between her hands? That didn't do it for you?
Not quite. Not quite. Not quite my thing. It is what it is. The spice level here was good. I enjoyed the spice. It was fine, but I don't care for Hunt in that way, so it didn't do it for me.
Same. I do appreciate that it wasn't always about the sex, though. You know how sometimes whenever, like, with ACOFAE, love me some Cassian, do not get me wrong. It became all about the smut. I liked what was the example that I gave you earlier? Oh, when they were at Calistina's wedding, and at some point Bryce is like, okay, like she says to Hunt, like, whatever, Your Highness. And he goes, really, Your Highness? I thought you only called me that in bed. And she goes, and she did when she was like riding him the other night, that you're like, you're my fucking prince. But then that was it. It was just that's what she said. Okay, carry on into the story and the plot. That's like, and I think this goes back to not everything we read has to be like full on smut. If I want smut, I'll find some smut.
Yeah, but the smut level was fine here. I had no problem with the smut level. I did skip a few of them.
I appreciate the consent, no matter who it was, whether it was like consent all the way through. And I know that sounds like the bar is on the floor, but like that's the world we unfortunately live in at this moment, that we have to normalize it. So it is something that we could praise and talk about, so it doesn't feel like this, like, oh my God, it happened.
Tell me about Apollyon.
He's the prince of, like, the 7th layer of hell. Can we say, or maybe that's like the end of the book, hell isn't what we think hell is. This whole time, and especially if, like, definitely if you're traditionally reading this, hell is HEL. And, like, if we were listening, you're also thinking, like, okay, it's probably our idea of hell, as in, like, us, listeners, readers, are thinking of it as hell in, like, the biblical sense, I guess. This is hell the planet. It's a planet. It's a world. There's 7. This whole time, it's not like this underworld thing. It's not an afterlife thing. Did I miss this? Like, or am I like the last person who got the memo?
I don't know. I don't know. I think it was like briefly kind of hinted at in the first book. So when it was confirmed here, I was just like, yeah, okay. But that is another thing that annoyed me, though, when Apollyon is like, you know, was it Apollyon? He's like, the armies of hell will answer to you, Bryce.
Yeah, hell's armies shall strike at your command, Bryce Quinlan.
Yeah, and Bryce is like, oh, why aren't you like, yo, explain. Right?
Like, she gets so, I feel like she tries to be like, ooh, you know, just like she did in the first book, where she's like, okay, big bad Umbra Mortis. Like, that's her defense mechanism. So I don't know if that's what she's doing in that moment, to be like,
instead of being like, I have a question.
Right. Like Poppy would. Poppy would be like, wait, make it make sense.
Yeah. I'd be like, wait, are you going to take because I feel like we get a little bit of that exposition, because he's like, my father was the void, it existed before chaos, my bride is this, we return to them, and then he says like Hunt is wasting his gifts, like all of this, like this stuff. But we get some of that, but it's also like, the armies will answer, it's like, but like, I'm not invading the place I already live, so like, what are you invading for? The questions are not being asked. And they should. And
that was a problem you had. You were like, ask the questions like we, the reader, might be asking.
Yeah, like ask the questions.
Well, those were like questions that I have a quote, and they're questions that Danica were asking, which is why she hid the papers. And Therion brings it up again. What's the quote? What was this world before the Asteri? Ancient humans and their gods dwelled here. And where did the Asteri come from? Where did the Fae come from? Or the shifters or the angels? Like, direct quote. He's asking the questions, and everyone's just kind of like,
philosophical, instead of like,
but he's asking the questions that Danica that got her into like what, like the shit.
Yeah, it just, I don't know. The whole thing, okay, so let's pivot. The whole thing with the Reapers and the Star Sword is kind of like touched on, but I'm bringing this up because I really like how Rigulus like shits on everybody, and Rigulus is like, yo, you didn't even like look that hard. You didn't even try that hard. Like, what, why are you so fucking shocked to be here? Like, you did nothing.
What was the connection? And I reread it, and I'm trying to see remember where he's like, your Adis would be very disappointed that I tricked you. When did Rigulus pretend that he was Adis? Was he visiting Bryce's dream or visiting Hunt's dream? Because it was like, because they said like when you visited me at night. My note question is, when Adis appeared, it wasn't really Adis, but Rigulus? ? That was.
I thought it was when Adis appeared as the cat, and Ethan was like, "Oh my god, was this the birds?"
And they're all openly talking because
there.
When they're all openly talking, and Bryce and Hunt just think it's Adis.
Yeah, that's what I thought, because that's why neither of them are surprised. Because neither of them are surprised. They're like, "Oh, Adis visited." And they're both like, "Oh shit, that wasn't That wasn't."
Okay.
That was
then. I thought so. Rigulus took Adis's form as a cat, not Adis's form as a human.
I'm not sure. We'll have to reread it, but we do know that he did take his form.
Yeah.
Somebody else taking form. Cormac can winnow. Let's call it what it is. Cormac can winnow. Something that I'm annoyed about. Bryce is like, yeah, like teach me how to do it. Teach me how to do it. We have like one training scene of Bryce trying to like figure out how to winnow. She can't do it, but then she goes and fucks Hunt and winnows all over after she orgasms. Like, okay, but that is building to a later point that I want to make. Yeah, you know exactly what I am going to talk about. What I'm going to talk about are the Underking right now. I do like this confirmation that they have, confrontation that is happening at the in the Bone Quarter with the Underking. I like that the Underking is like a 10-foot tall like corpse with jewels for eyes. Tell me why I was thinking, like, is this a relative of the Suriel? What? I could not.
But he's not a messy bitch. Like, he's a mean, messy bitch.
But he like
not the Suriel, the bone.
Yeah, the Underking. But it was just so funny. Like he kept like talking, and I was just like, oh, okay, I see you. But then again, I was just like, is this just like? Again, is this just an Easter egg? Is this just lazy writing? But then I don't know. Now I know nothing. But I do like that, and I do like what he tells us too. The Underking here tells us that long ago he emerged. He made himself king. He's not evil.
Oh, because you can't death isn't evil. It's not one thing or the other. It's just death.
Is. Yeah,
right.
And Reapers came from hell. So did vampires. Reapers chose to stay on Midgard. Who's to say? And then he's saying, like, who's to say that those Reapers were mine? They can travel all over. There's many necropolises. And then he talks about like Chthonia's like dark crown and stuff. Oh, and then we get the first major bomb fucking drop. I think is the Underking saying that like, I eat souls, and when you die, it's the second light situation that we have here.
Right.
Nutritious first light. The princes of hell worship the void, but the Underking only wants power and life. Nutritious first life. As the souls pass through the dead gate, he like takes bites of them, and the souls pass through the dead gate and they funnel through.
He takes bites of the first light before the first light travels through what we now know to charge the Asteri.
Yeah. And then he goes on to say that everybody in society built rituals to explain this situation, and that's why the boats sail and like all of that stuff. Now, I love a good religion dismantling. I am, the Black Witch. That is my
That's
shit.
your shit. Yeah.
I love taking down a religion from the inside. I really enjoyed this plot. This is the plot that no one's fucking talking about, and I enjoy the shit out of this.
You're very good at picking up the religious context. And I'm sure, like, it's not only is it something you're passionate about, but you literally have a degree in it. But I think, like, you pick up on those nuances in any religious undertone because you have the degree to be like, here you go. Like, I studied this. Like, you know it, and you pick up on it, and you gravitate towards that.
Fucking interesting, because they're saying that, like, society, all of them, because they all do this. All the species on the planet do this. They all do the sailing. They created this to disguise the horror of what is happening, and that the souls like stay in the bone quarter for a certain amount of time until they're forgotten, and then they are fed through. I think Bryce equates it as like a meat grinder of souls, and then they're like funneled out. They're all funneled. They're funneled to the Eternal City.
It's like they're squeezing out every last bit of soul left, and they don't do it right away. They do it when like people have forgotten them.
Yeah.
So that way, which is why she's so upset when they're like, they just moved up the pack of devils. Like they move. We're still remembering them, and they're not going to be there.
Yeah.
Which during a grieving process, that would fuck with a lot of people.
And then there's a really great line here. It says, we believe we are free. We believe we are powerful and near immortal, but we're all slaves. And, that's talking about like they're all slaves to the Asteri because no matter. And that is something that I found really interesting, too, that they say later on in the book that like even the rebels that are like fighting against the Asteri do not give a single shit because every time a rebel dies, they just get more powerful. So like fucking fight. Who cares? Everybody is so Nobody knows the bigger truth. That's what it is. So everybody is just blind to this all. But that's like, that happens a lot with like you said, like with religious themes, with political themes. You don't see it because people are just so focused on, or maybe not even focused. We have the three-headed dog here too at the dead gate.
I put Severus.
Yeah, Severus is like, oh, hello, sweet boy. We get another a Thur situation. Hunt says, light it up. Let's just go ahead and talk about it. Get it out of the way. I have a fucking problem with Bryce not being able to use her power unless she is, quote, leveled up, unquote, by somebody else. And in a lot of instances, it is Hunt. Why can she not be powerful on her own? Why? No, I don't care that they're a team. I don't care that they have to work together. Let a woman be powerful on her own.
2 comments to that. One, she directly says that she doesn't like it because she's like, I'm a strong, powerful female. Like, she says, I'm an independent female. That is the line. And then they're like, oh, and then Hunt's like, oh, can it be romantic? Like, we're a team. To what your husband, our editor, goes, how is it a team if it doesn't work the other way around?
Yeah, she can't, oh my God, it is so frustrating. And this is a criticism that we've had of Sarah in the past too. Like, just just let it. Unless she like learns, you know, unless it's like a growth situation in book 3, then I will come back and, you know, but right now.
Well, and what's the quote? Power attracts power. It is her fate to be tied to a powerful male to match her own strength. So like, okay, they could have, and there's even the line of them being conduits or something. So that's fine. Okay, we'll admit that they're mates. We'll admit all this stuff. Her star-born power could be different than Hunt's electric lightning power, but they're still just as equally strong. But it doesn't feel that way as of this book because she needs him to be and you know, and maybe, and she's like, maybe it's just her being an amplifier because it's not just him. Like she still needs hypaxia when they're fighting the other, like the demons and stuff. So there's that too. But either way, she's like but maybe that just opens up more questions. Is it because she's still doing her training? Is it still because she's not strong enough? Because even now, Cormac, he's trained and he can't, like, he gets exhausted winnowing and he's doing the steps. Whereas we know from our Prithian Fae, when they're winnowing, Moore straight up took Feyre out of the Spring Court to, you know, to the Night Court. So we know it's possible.
It's just, I don't know. I just have a lot of questions. Just let women be powerful. Just let women be powerful. You know, she's a conduit. She's an amplifier. Okay, whatever. We're in the Grishaverse. Like, that's fine. But I just, you know, that's all I have to say. That's all I have to say. Ethan has a really nice plot here. We're not really talking about Ethan. Ethan is a lone wolf. He's kicked out of the pack. He lives with Bryce. He's comic relief. He breaks the tension there with her and Hunt before they're fucking, and then a little bit after.
Rune is so good with him.
He's so good with him. He moves in with Rune. And then Ethan finds an alpha mystic, you know, there's just
who's a Fendir.
Who's the lost Fender heir. I mean, you know, these are just like huge plot bombs. There's just so much here. But like, holy crap. All of this for Ethan. He's such a, you were saying like, it is hard to forgive him for like the way that he let everybody treat him. But like, he's also going through his own shit that is clearly like shown to us in this book.
And at the same time, even Bryce says, you know, she goes, he might have isolated me. He might have treated me like this, but I was doing the same thing to him through her grief. And, you know, it's like I go back and forth with my frustration because it'd be hard to me forgive him. So I do like that Rune and Hunt were being like alpha holes about it just to protect like their sister and their significant other. Like I do appreciate that. I understand that it comes from a place of love. They just don't want her to go through that again. I was going to say Connor. Ethan's going through it. He's having his own self-identity crisis, just like Therian. So they're kind of similar in that. And even Therian's like, look, now you're in this shit with us. Might as well tell you the truth because we're all going to fucking die. And Connor's even having like it's like, grief is never a straight line. The process of grieving is never a straight line. Nobody tells you that unless you've gone through it. And he goes through it all over again when he realizes that it, you know, Micah was the one who killed. Like he didn't even know the truth about how his brother died, how his pack died, how Danica died. And he's like, again, then he's like going through the process and being like, I was a fucking idiot. How dare I accuse Bryce of not loving my family as much as I do. She literally killed an archangel for them as a human. He was even like, how the fuck was that even possible? Like, I do appreciate that. And Therian just being like, you know what, here you go. You might as well know you're in it with us now. You're like part of the cadre. And that word is said in this book.
Yeah, it is. I'm skipping around here. There's just like so much.
There's a lot.
There's a lot. I said my notes say ew, sexting, ew, phone ew.
Okay. Yeah, the sexting, but let's good on Hunt.
Sex positive.
Sex good positive. On Hunt to be sex positive and that he wasn't intimidated by her sex toys because like he's like good for him. Yeah. I just. I know.
So let's pivot to the history of the wolves. Let's pivot to Jessica. We haven't really talked about Jessica. I don't like the way that Bryce treats Jessica in this book. She only calls Jessica when she needs her. Jessica obviously knows way more of what's going on. I feel like it is a missed opportunity to cultivate this kind of situation with Jessica. And, Jessica telling Bryce to like look at all the footage of Danica and like watch what she was doing in there. Also feeds into the weird betrayal kind of thing that I've been talking about with Danica every time that she's brought up. But at least here we get some payoff. You know, we get Danica was looking at the history of the wolves and the family tree, the bloodlines, and then we have Gunther, and then Nicholas Fendir and Ferris. What is it? Haviland?
Haviland. Yeah, that's how I
the first of the line. And then we have Catra Fendir. It's just interesting. Like, Danica really knew what the fuck she was on. And I still fucking love that. So we're talking about the wolves. Let's talk about Bryce going to visit the Prime and what the Prime tells Bryce.
In regards to their history?
Yeah, because it directly ties into, like, the end, which is, like, where we're heading.
Oh, about how that their history isn't necessarily in the books because of, like, how they came over. And, like, the lines of the shifters. There's a line where it's like Midgar shifters were Fae from another planet. All the Fae and the world shared their form with an animal. And it's really just how nothing is documented. It all had to go through word of mouth and he was believing that Danica thought that that she would be the one to bring them back to how it used to be.
And that how the Prime has this oral history passed down through father to father about how in the first wars, they yielded their true nature to the Asteri and they lost it forever. And that ever since then, they've lived under the collar of the Asteri. They've lost what they could have been. And they've become the Asteri's creatures inside and out. And that Danica trusted nobody but Bryce, which is like the really only reassurance we have here that Danica, like, is not, like, betraying Bryce. And Bryce is just kind of like blah, blah, blah about it, which I find really interesting.
She keeps dismissing everybody with, like, between, like, the fire sprites and just kind of, like, I feel like it's going to be payoff for us as the readers who are picking up on this. To be like, why? See, you shouldn't have, because, again, we know Sarah doesn't give us this information unless there's going to be a payoff later.
I just want to briefly touch on the fire sprites and the dragon.
To me, we got names.
Like, yeah, we have very, very little personality. They were, like, brooming with Rune and everybody, and then, you know, the sprites are still there. It's just, you know, the dragon is in flame and shadow. You know, the whole subplot. The whole thing with Pippa too, and the Pacific Rim, like, armor suits, you know, whatever. Hunt blowing them up, you know, whatever.
Can I say something that is just annoying to me about that whole situation? He's going on and on, explaining what the mech suit is to the villain. Why does anybody do that? Why, even if he knew how powerful they were, why wouldn't he just be dismissive about it? Be like, oh, it doesn't work the way it worked for me. Why do we have to be truthful to the villain? Just like when the villains are info dumping to us. And they, you know, we always hear, like, oh, the reason that they're only the villains always, like, telling us the whole plot is because they don't expect us to get out of here alive. If you're quote unquote like team fuck you and you know, why are you voluntarily giving that information?
It is really, really frustrating. I just don't understand. It's like, yes, let's please give away everything. And then he's just like, okay, let's just blow everything up while we're standing right fucking next to it and be really surprised. Like, okay.
Let's call attention to us even more.
Yeah, that whole situation. Okay, whatever. But they're rescued by the ocean. They're rescued by the Hind. You know,
she's a bad bitch. I love her. Love her.
It is her character is very interesting because we know that she's done, like, really bad shit, but we know that she's, like, in the cause, and we know that her and Rune are mates, and they have all of this mind sex going on. I really love that whole situation.
I loved it. I respect her too. Not only is she, like you said, she's part of the cause. She sees the bigger freaking picture, because even when she puts the Gorsian handcuffs on Bryce, she doesn't put them tight. When they quote unquote escape, she knows that she's like, you have to make it look like I lost. Like, we cannot she knows, like, right now, she's going to be like, maybe how, this is too early, but like maybe how Elide was like that key player, or like Caltain or Lysandra. Like, she's going to be one of the, I feel, because, I was like, what the hell is going on when I first read Throne of Glass? And then how pivotal, because right now, everybody who we know is quote like fighting the cause, the Asteri are in another world. Like, everybody's tied up doing something, and she's the only, I don't want to say like watermark timestamp or whatever, but she's a bad bitch. I love her.
I agree. Okay, there's just so much.
I know.
There's so much. Celestina and Hypaxia are a thing. Okay. Something I want to point out. Hunt denies that he has a foot fetish. I find that really interesting. I feel like Sarah listened to all of our critiques about Hunt, like, liking toes and stuff and being like, I'm going to fix this. So Hunt says, like, everything about you, Bryce, is a fetish for me. So he does.
Which is sweet. Okay.
Which is sweet.
Rune 2. He's, because, when he's doing the talk with, like, Agent Day, she's like, are you, like, not a dominant? And he goes, no. He's like, I'm into whatever my partner. That man. We should know though. He's literally related to
He's
Reese.
related to
and,
Reese.
Like, when you think of, like, remember the sauna scene in ACOFAE? And he's like, oh, are you into that, Feyre? And she's like, I thought you didn't like to share. And he's like, I'm into whatever you're. Those females.
Oh yeah. I'm trying to look at my notes. We have this whole situation about, like, Adis and Thea were a thing, so that's nice. There's a line that says Orion was bred, which is just dropped there and not picked up again. I want to revisit that maybe in the next book. Another thing, Dragonfire can burn the princes of hell. That will be interesting.
Yeah.
What else do I have here? Oh, okay. So Baxian and Danica being mates. Sabine knew. They had 2 years together. Danica, like, sniffed him out. He was the last, like, descendant of the bloodline.
It wasn't intentional. They were just, like, at some summit, like some whatever. So, because it was like she went in place of Sabine, whatever political summit she had to go to.
Yeah.
And she was doing her history on wolves.
Yeah.
Like wolf packs, and she realized that, like, he's a dog shifter, but not a wolf, and that made her curious or something.
And Danica wanted a replacement for Sabine, so she was researching the bloodlines. So she was, and that's how, all of that happened. And then Baxian, so I'm bringing this up because Baxian is the one that knows Sophie's code. And Sophie is confirmed dead. Sophie the Thunderbird. Sophie who carved a code into her arm as she was drowning. And this is the key pivotal part. So Baxian recognizes this code because he has, through love all is possible, tattooed on his neck because he's Danica's mate. And through all of this situation, everybody decides to go to the Eternal City and go through the door that is what the symbols mean, in the Eternal City.
I can't remember, and this is kind of, is Baxian caught as one of the people? Oh, he is caught, so he's found. Yeah, he's not part of
out.
Okay.
Yeah. One of my notes is there's a lot of nipple kissing in this book. I just want to put that out there. Okay. Cormac blows himself up. I think it's important to note that. Okay, now we are at we're at, like, chapter 71 onward. So these are the big reveals, okay? This episode's going long. I know this.
It's actually still shorter than our Kingdom of Ash and Clockwork Princess episode.
We're not done yet. Okay, so Bryce is completely and utterly isolated at this point. Juniper is not talking to her. Fury is kind of with her. She has not spoken to her mother or her parents in a while. They don't know what is going on.
They're doing the postcard thing, though.
This is after.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. This is so what does Bryce do? Bryce calls and leaves a message for Juniper, and then she takes the picture of the four of them and puts it into her phone case. Okay. She is totally alone. She has Rune and Hunt, and then she has, Declan on tech.
Yeah.
So that's it, and they go into the Eternal City, and Cormac, knows, and then Cormac has his own thing with Therian. Okay. They're in the Eternal City. This is where we get all of the fucking reveals. What are the reveals? The reveals are that the Asteri feed on First Light and power themselves up on it like fucking batteries, right? That is the first level of the reveal.
Radulus at 45%.
It's perfect. Perfect. That's absolutely perfect. So that is the first reveal, that everybody in Midgard is like food for the Asteri, and that they are the overlords, and that they've constructed a system to feed them and like give them power, not once but twice, through First Light and Second Light. Okay, that's the first reveal. After that, Bryce goes down a hallway and she sees dawn, midnight, midday, and dusk. She sees all of these doors, and dusk is in the center. And she's like, dusk. That's what Danica was talking about, dusk. So she goes through dusk. What does she learn in the dusk room? In the dusk room, she learns that basically the Asteri are aliens, and they use First Light for power. They conquer worlds and suck them dry.
And she knows, she's like, Dusk's truth. Like, she's going through the emails, she's going through. But then we're also finding out that in the background of all of this information, you have an Isle of near permanent twilight, the homeworld of her. Because now we're knowing about Fae. We're knowing about Fae shifters. We know they're coming from other planets. And it says an Isle of near permanent twilight, the homeworld of her breed of Fae. Because you find out that the Starborn Fae are from this island. What's the direct? Your Starborn bloodline specifically hailed from a small isle a few miles from the mainland. And while the mainland had all manner of climes, the isle existed in a beautiful near-permanent twilight. And my note was Dusk Court. And then goes, an isle of near-permanent twilight, the homeworld of her breed of Fae, a land of dusk. Then Dusk's truth. And she's going in. She finds digital versions of the orrery that her biological father has in his office, and she sees again with the astronomer and the mystics.
So also what we learn here, which is also so fucking interesting, is Hell as a planet was tried to be conquered by the Asteri, and Hell rose up, right? So Hell tried to save Midgard 15,000 years ago. So Midgard was conquered in 17,003, and it is ideal. It says human life was not sustainable. And then, so what did they do? They opened up the gates. The Fae didn't recognize the Asteri, whatever. So all these gates are open in the world or whatever. And the Asteri lured all of these different species of Fae into Midgard because it's a base, right? And while they were doing this, they were also out trying to conquer other worlds. So Hell, the Asteri lost Hell in 1701. It says Hell saw through the lures. The Asteri abandoned Hell, and Hell said, fuck you. Mm-hmm. Followed them in 1702. But in 1703, the war ended. Hell made attachments to Thea. And this is what my highlight is. The demon princes had a moral obligation to save Midgard. And a moral obligation is kind of an undercurrent of what is going on in this book, because Therian and Bryce have an argument about morals outside of the mystics. And Ethan also has kind of a moral conflict too about leaving the alpha in the mystics. So morals is kind of interesting here. But I find that really interesting because of what Rigulus says when he catches Bryce in all of this. Rigulus says, we are gods. It is not our fault that what we eat is inconvenient for you. And I was just like, yo, that's some fucked up reasoning, bro. Damn. But then I'm thinking vampires, stays, it's just like a higher level. It's just it's just worse. It's just like way fucking worse.
I just like this whole stuff. Like, it feels like constant, like, yeah, it's info dumping, but it's not info dumping in the sense that you can gloss over and return to later. Like, it's the plot. It's all been leading up to this. I mean, even the Starborn ancestors. And then when we're talking about how they were defeated, and because they were talking about like, oh well, here's this other Fae that they were eating out of the palm of our hands like fish to bait, and they said the Starborn ancestors eventually, because they did lose like to hell, shut the gates to stop us from invading their realm once more, because that's what they were going to do. They were going to go back to where all the shifter phase came from, Midgard. So now we're assuming that the shifter phase that were like, hey, yeah, like we'll totally come to Midgard, they wanted to go back there. But after like all the bullshit, the Starborn ancestors shut the gates to stop us from invading their realm once more, and reminding who their true masters are. They shut the gates to all of the worlds, including those to hell. And now we know that hell isn't the hell that we're, the biblical hell, but as a planet. So, and this is Rigel talking. So we have been trapped here, cut off from the cosmos, all that is left of our people. And my note is very Throne of Glass and ACOTAR was my note.
Well, yeah, because the next line is to, we're going to go back and undo the actions of an ignorant princess made 15,000 years ago.
Which is Queen Thea, or Thea, right? No.
Well,
we don't know.
It sounded to me like Elena.
Oh.
I am not going
Like, we're
there.
not going to touch that.
We're not going there.
I just feel like we open up a whole thing if we start talking about theories, because we know, not related to Elena, talk about Thea has two daughters, Helena, and then one that got away. It's just there. I'm not going to say, we don't know. I'm just saying it's just information that was like, bloop.
Yep. And then we have everything. The interesting, the pointed ears were bred out of the Twilight, like Dusk Fae, by the Asteri. I thought that was really interesting. And then he also says, Midgard shifters are probably from like Throne of Glass, Otterland. Animal Fae once together, but alone enough to develop their own gifts. And then the Asteri made Fae, the two species, at odds,
like against each other.
And then they left. So in Midgard, they left the humans there. They lured all of the Vanir there. They left the humans there to give the Vanir something to like do, and then the Asteri just like overlord all of them and feed on all of them. It's like very like fucking corrupt. So then Rigulus admits that he set up to kill Danica. He set it all in motion. The Danica's dad says that Hunt doesn't smell like an angel. Back to what you said, he calls him a noble bastard. I want to know what the Hind whispers to Bryce, probably about her shackles, but I don't know.
Right. That's what I was thinking, the shackles.
Yeah. Bryce says that they need to destroy the core of First Light underneath the Quartz Palace, and that will, destroy everything. And Rigel is like, stop talking. So, like, obviously that'll be the...
Well, he was like, what are you trying to do? Tell your friends what you discovered? Like, yeah, that's exactly what she's trying to do.
Yeah, it's exactly what she's trying to do. My theory here is that Rune dropped the beacon stone that he was using to contact the Hind into Bryce's pocket, and that she has that when she goes through the gates. I'm pretty sure of that. And then, okay, Jess, you had tears with this.
Yeah, I had tears. I cried at two parts in the book. I don't know how everybody else has been reading this. I cried in the last chapter because I was so overwhelmed and so happy, and just like I said, it was like a return to my friends. But I cried with her, like, even though we know, like, we're going to see Rune again. I wasn't upset about the goodbye, quote unquote, with Hunt. I was upset about her goodbye with Rune. because I just love their relationship. I love, like, I've been open about it. Like, I have my own strained relationship with my siblings, not for lack of trying. So it was just very much so beautiful that they've come so far from when they finally, you know, when they first met when they were 13, and then their fight. And then I love the growth of their friendship and their relationship, and like how you hear some sibling relationships. I love that Rune was finally truthful about his what the Oracle said to him, that he's like, and then he was just like, the defense mechanism of, why do you think I partied so hard? Like, of course I had fun with life. Like, I'm the last person of our bloodline. Like, the bloodline ends with me, which is its own thing that we could spiral into for a different episode, because I have my own theories there. Again, whole other thing. But I just love their, like, that was what, but again, but that reminded me of book 1, Bryce. It was like the first time I felt like, this is book 1, Bryce.
Yeah.
In a while. I think that talking it out, maybe that's what it was also.
Yeah, no, I agree. That was also the first time I felt like any true emotion besides like kind of, yeah, it was really good, really good. And then she runs through the portal. Where does everybody expect her to go? Because I thought it was very clear that she was not going to be going to hell. I thought,
but like, that's what's, we had this conversation where they made a comment. They, like, literally, Riotulous just said, hell isn't the focus. Our plans are to go back to the world that gave us, like, that were kind of naive, I guess you could say, and helping us the first time. So she goes back there.
Yeah, she goes back. I don't know. I don't know.
Is that a conversation that people are having? Like, they thought she was like the question of how she ended up, because then, you know, in Throne of Glass, where Selena goes through the gate, not Throne of Glass, Crown of Midnight, where she goes through, like, is that a type of gate also when she falls?
I think you're right. Yeah, no, yeah, probably. I don't know.
So, like, I feel like that's how, in my mind, I imagined the portal, because she does it in Crown of Midnight when she first, like, you know, when Selena shifts into, like, her Aelin form, and then it happens again when she's goes through that other gate when she's sacrificing herself to see the gods.
Right, the aliens.
Okay. Yeah.
No. Yeah, I don't know, because the line is that she's like yanked. She was like going down, right? And then she was like yanked to the side. So then it was like, why is she yanked to the side? Like, if she was going down, but I don't know. Maybe that's just how it's like travel. I don't know. Who knows about portal travel?
Timey-wimey, wobbly thing.
Yeah. Wibbly-wobbly, timely-wimey. So after Bryce goes to the portal, we get Hunt getting his halo back on. And, Baxine about to get another halo on. I don't know what Hunt was expecting, like the consequences of my actions. Oh my God. That did not surprise me. I'm not worried about that. That is its own plot that will resolve itself. Not worried about it. Worried about Rune just because but Lydia is there, you know, like the Hind is there.
I love how Rune's able to be like, y'all are your mates, but he can't pick up that she's his mate. He goes, how he could abhor her and need her and be drawn to her in the same breath. I wonder if it's because it's so few and far between that it seems like this thing of myth, that we're familiar with it because of our exposure of Crescent City, Throne of Glass and ACOTAR, that this is like 15,000 plus years in the future, that it, like, everything has been pretty arranged. You know, the same thing with King Anir and Rune's mom, like, nobody's really talked about mates. So maybe that's why he's like, oh, this should be my mate. I don't know. Again, I don't know.
Yeah, no, these are all really good points. These are all really good questions. Jess, where does she end up?
She ends up in Valaris, who has technology now. Like, when she said there was like fresh cut grass, I go, I'm thinking very Pleasantville. I'm like, when did they get lawnmowers and a sprinkler system?
So all good questions.
Tears. Sobbing tears. I was so happy. Even if we were spoiled.
To see Batty Daddy Azzy. Batty Daddy Azzy. Hello. Those scarred hands.
scarred hands, leathery demon-like wings. I was like,
well, I know who you're talking about. We know who this is.
No.
Yeah, we know who this is. Step
I'm
back.
I'm sorry. Even if Hunt was my mate. Hunt who?
Yeah.
What?
Azzy?
Daddy Azzy.
Daddy Azzy back. Fantastic, right? And then he takes her, plops her down.
And then when she's like, and then a swaggering male came in, I was like, yes, I'm chills. I'm so happy.
I have one more thing I have to say. Do you know what I would pay to be blindfolded by Daddy Azzy? I'm sorry.
Please.
I'm sorry. And then like pushed down into a chair. Yes. Sign me up, please.
Can you imagine him just looking at you and cocking his head like,
and then being like exasperated with you and being like, I'd be like, and then putting a blindfold on you, picking you up, and then pushing you into a chair. I want this experience, please. But then we get Cass, we get Pharaoh, we get Reese, we get Amryn.
When Nesta walks in with Cass and she's like, what the fuck is going on?
Like, what is
and
this?
Then we got to play homage to Feyre in her painted pants.
Yeah, walking out. I do like though how Rune and Reese are confirmed. It's confirmed by Bryce right away.
Which means Bryce is related to Reese.
Yeah, so we can only hope that it's like, what, Rhysand Dannon? I don't know, sounds kind of dumb, but whatever. I don't know.
But then you have Amryn where she makes the comment of somebody walks in, immediately reminding her of Fury. And Amryn is, if you think about it, who Danica must have sniffed out. Like, remember? Because there's this thing that they say at the beginning, or earlier in the book, where it's their connection, where she goes, Danica knew something about Fury knew something about Danica, and there was like this, I've got you,
yeah.
like I see you, like we're cool, but we're never going to talk about it.
And it said over and over and over again that they don't know what kind of veneer that Fury is.
Right. In the first book too, like everybody knows, you just don't ask questions.
Yeah. So the Fury Amryn connection is also established there, which is interesting. And then I find the Book of Breathing language is confirmed, because it's in Jessica's library. And then Amryn says, like, nobody has spoken this language in like 15,000 years. It's the old language of the Fae. It's like, okay. So that is really interesting. And then, like, of course, Reese knows the language now, too. So Reese is speaking it as well.
Reese has just always struck me as somebody who's, like, he loves educating himself. Like, he does it with Helion when he's, like, trying to get all that information when they were doing the exchange in ACOFAE. You find it again in ACOFAE when he has the orrery in his office. So I just feel like he's just a very inquisitive person.
Mm-hmm. And then, of course, we have the confirmation of the knife and the star sword.
Oh, yeah. And everybody, like, Az was like, who? Like, he was shocked.
Yeah. So we have that whole plot line. And then Reese speaks. We have, hello, Bryce Quinlan. My name is Rhysand. We love that.
And Sarah made it a point. She doesn't say, Bryce Quinlan, like, I'm Rhysand last name. Like, she, again.
Yeah.
He didn't.
Didn't say it. And, and that's the, like, official end of the book. And then we have the epilogue, and then we have all of the other bonuses. The epilogue is just, like, Ethan being called back to the house because he wants to guard the Lost Fendir heir. Big book, big thoughts, big plot, head empty, big mushy thoughts.
And I know we're going to be reading it at some point this year for Lord of the Rings, but you equated this book to The Two Towers.
Yeah, I called this the Two Towers book, which is just to me like a plot movement book where like a lot of stuff happens and it's all pretty important, but like there's obviously another act coming and like that one is going to be like the big one.
And we know she confirmed it on the interview Q&A or whatever she had with both Fane and LA Live, because it was the same one, that she's currently working on Crescent City 3. So like that's confirmed. I know a lot of people are upset thinking that there was going to be an alternating, but it just seems like the logical sense, because look at where this book left off. Clearly something is going to happen in Crescent City 3. that's probably going to tie into ACOTAR. Like, you know, that's, again, its own spiral thing.
Yeah, we're not spiraling here.
We're not spiraling, but I'm just saying, like, logically, it makes sense that she would do CC3 and the ACOTAR series with Hulu.
Yeah. It all makes sense. I wanted to point out something that I felt really, like, just dumb about, like, after all of this was, like, confirmed and after the leak and after I read everything and I was thinking about the show and I was just like, oh, well, fucking duh. She had to tell everybody the plots of everything when she was pitching everything. So of course they got the Outlander guy that knows about, like, the modern day stuff going through a portal to the old timey stuff.
Yeah.
Like, of course it makes fucking sense. And I
can just hope that Hulu can do, you know, I think it was always said, because, you know, we knew she sold the rights for Throne of Glass a while ago, and I forget what the name of the title. I remember it was disclosed. I can't remember what the name. It wasn't, the name of the show wasn't Throne of Glass. Like, it was based on Throne, but they had a whole different, like, pilot name. I can only hope Hulu can do it justice, because you and I, we talk so much about, like, the various streaming services specifically, or just cable, regarding who can bring the series to justice. And I haven't read the Outlander books. I probably won't, because I really do enjoy the show. But Starz does a wonderful job with that. We know HBO, despite how the writing went, we know visually they do a great job with Game of Thrones. Netflix does what it did with Shadow and Bone.
Fingers crossed. Just, do you like this book?
I feel like talking it out helped me. I like the first one better. I know I feel like I'm going to get a lot of hate for that. I think I had to come down from I had to come down from the high of it, because I was very upset. Like, initially I was so frustrated with the frustrations we pointed out in this episode, but I was just, like, crying out of my frustration. I don't remember the last time. And I'm you know, admittedly emotional because of this, you know, because Laura decided to, like, hey, I'm going to make you read fantasy. I'm going to knock this down that you've been blocking all your feels for the last, you know, million years. So I was really upset. I feel like talking it out, I'm like a little bit more rational, but I think it comes from, like, that first initial read high. Same thing with ACOFAE. I think a lot of people love ACOFAE, and a lot of people were, like, on that emotional high. And then when you came down from that and everybody was talking about, they're like, wait, what was the plot? What happened? Cassian, Nesta, sex, and Valkyrie. But then everybody was like, wait, what happened? You know, I feel like I've calmed down emotionally. I'm happy. I still like Crescent City, Earth and Blood more, and I know that has to do with the friendship that is there. Like, that it plays a huge part. It carries the whole story. Where are your thoughts with this? I know you like Crescent City 1 better.
Yeah, no, I absolutely like Crescent City 1 better. This one just, it didn't do it for me. Jess, you said, like, disappointed, and, like, disappointed I think is the right word. It is disappointing to build up this, like, foundation of strong sisterhood and friendship, and then just to watch it, like, crumble. But then if it's part of a, like, larger, like, plot line that's resolved in the next book about how, like, you know, you need the power of friendship or whatever, and we all get glowing friendship bracelets, like, I'll eat my words. But it just didn't sit right with me. It left a bad taste in my mouth. Like, I don't, you know, and now she's totally isolated from everything that she knows. It's just like, how far are you gonna, I don't know.
Maybe that's it. Maybe we just have to wait to see what the next book happens, because I feel like every time she has a new book out, you start shifting your placements. Like, I know a ton of people don't like Crown of Midnight. I know it's at the bottom of a lot of people's, like, lists. I have a nostalgic place for it in my heart, because that book is where I started. It was the first book I cried at in the Throne of Glass series, because at the end of that book, I realized, holy shit, this thing is so much bigger than I even realized. So I have a special place. Like, is it the best book? No. but I do like it because it was my aha moment. So maybe going back on it, like, you know, just like Assassin's Blade, and you figure it out in Empire of Storms, people sometimes place Assassin's Blade low on their list, but sometimes they raise it a little bit higher because your aha moment comes like 4 books later.
Yeah, and I feel,
or 5 books later, you know,
yeah,
like,
yeah. So give me Crescent City 3. Give me Crescent City 3. Give me Crescent City 3 right now. I will read it, and then I will go back and reassess my judgment of Crescent City 2. Crescent City 2 is pretty low on my list, and I know that is not what people are like saying, because they're still in the high, and I understand that. I understand the high, but like, I am not there. I am being realistic, and it is not it for me. I came for female friendship, and I left with complete and utter isolation, and it is just not what I wanted.
So I think it's fair to say we will revisit this book in the future.
Absolutely.
Not near future.
No.
But feel free to please, like, again, I want to reiterate that we should normalize that it's okay to be wrong and not be toxic about it, and have respectful conversations. You know, it's fine. It's okay. Like, people don't, like, it's different, you know, and that's what we're having. And everybody's experience is different. Nobody should be unruly about it. So if you want to reach out, tell us your thoughts in our DMs, have those conversations. We want to have them, but not in an attacking way. I think that's fair to say. And it's not just us, it's everybody. It's, you know, let's be respectful. I think that's all you can do is reiterate the importance of that.
Be nice. Don't be an asshole. Yeah. Don't be an asshole. Don't be a dick. Just be nice. So
it's like, can you imagine like how hard it is that we have to ask people to like
just be nice. Don't be a dick.
Nice. But feel free to follow us on Instagram, ACOFAE Podcast. We're also both on TikTok, ACOFAE Laura and ACOFAE Jessica. Here's to the next one. Thanks, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.